Well, this prompted Ben Shapiro, as you would imagine, to talk about this as well. The very footage that we just saw. Let's hear his opinions on all of it.
To throw Donald Trump off of all social media. It was to paint all Republicans as rioters, as people who were involved in criminality. As it turns out, even a huge majority of the people who were at the Capitol and in the Capitol that day were not, in fact, rioters. And then it became the global pretext for the attack on democracy routine from the globalized left. Basically, anytime a right-winger would win an election anywhere globally, it turned into, this is just like January 6th. It's an attack on democracy. And what needs to happen is that we need to stop the right-wingers who are complicit in January 6th. January 6th became the rallying cry. And what you heard from the left is that January 6th was just as an important inflection point in American history as, for example, September 11th, when 3,000 Americans were murdered at the Twin Towers and at the Pentagon. What we heard is that all of American politics had to be recapitulated around this signal inflection point, this signal moment in American history. Well, as it turns out from a lot of the footage, the media accounts were in fact exaggerated. Now, again, this does not mean there wasn't a riot at the Capitol building. It doesn't mean the police officers weren't attacked. We saw all of that footage. But what the footage that Tucker showed last night showed is that some of the narratives that we were told were just flat out wrong. They were flat out lies, in fact, because if members of the January 6th committee saw the footage and then they said these things, it turns out that some of those things were not true. And that is a serious problem because, again, the same people who are out there claiming that conspiracists are becoming more common. Oh my God, conspiracy theories, they're flying wild. You know, it's a great way to feed conspiracy theories. A great way to feed conspiracy theories is to lie to people and then hide footage from them for 2 years. And then finally, when the footage emerges, it turns out that there's some pretty significant details that should have been mentioned in the coverage of January 6th.
God, it sounds a lot like COVID-19, the Wuhan lab leak. Remember how we couldn't even talk years about that for literally years, and we would get removed or deplatformed by big tech companies or censored or throttled, whatever it may be. There's a lot of people that subscribe to this channel. We have almost 33,000 people subscribed, and we barely get any views because a lot of us know what's going on behind the scenes here. We're being throttled big time. Big time. So hit that like and subscribe button. Leave a comment down below if you can. Again, hit that join button. Join us here so we can grow our membership. We can grow our base. The Bald Brad Show, push conservative thought and narratives out there to new viewers who haven't seen our content or our channel. But clearly we need it, folks, because we can't rely on these media outlets or our politicians to do their damn jobs correctly, because look at what we're facing now. A bunch of truths are coming out where, oh, well, the government's being taken over. Look at these insurrectionists. As there's freaking people just walking around. Officers are escorting people into different rooms. If you really thought the government was being taken over, wouldn't you have at least been running around, looking a little bit more frantic, other than hands in the pocket, having a cool conversation with Capitol Police? You had people in there taking selfies. It looks like you had reporters in there as well, taking photos of people. Like, it's so crazy here. Luckily, we have Ben Shapiro speaking some sense. Hopefully one day we can join the man and his level of speaking sense here from the Bald Brad Show and from our platform.
And two things can be true at once, as I'm very fond of saying. One, January 6th, the actual riots were really bad. They made America look terrible. They were predicated on a falsehood, which is that, again, the election was capable of being overturned by Mike Pence in the Senate or some such nonsense. There was no actual legal theory that held that and that was credible in any real sort of way. That can be true. And at the same time, it can be totally true that the media decided that January 6th was the most important thing that had ever happened in American history. And they were going to use this each and every day. And that the Democrats were going to use this going forward into 2022 as the basis for their election. And in 2024, they plan to use this again as the basis of their election. Both of those things can be true.
I have kind of a conspiracy theory for myself here because I'm a Trump supporter. All of you are Trump supporters. I'm sure if I asked every single one of you right now going, would you have stormed the Capitol if you were there? I would imagine, for those that are sane, would say no. I would never have stormed the Capitol. I know if I was there, I'd be like, what the hell is going on? What are you guys doing? This is insane. What I think, and a lot of you think as well, because there has been footage and pictures of FBI agents and certain agents out there pushing something, telling people to go into the Capitol. I also think there was people that were dressed up as Trump supporters, weren't actually Trump supporters, and trying to antagonize the crowd and the mob to go in there and do certain things. How do I get that and come to that conclusion? We saw that with the riots and everything going on with George Floyd, Trayvon Martin. I mean, it's been going on for years and years of Antifa dressing up as Trump supporters or conservatives or Tea Party members and going out there committing violence and ultimately creating riots out of the very violence that they started in the first place. So there's been time and time again where people have dressed up and masqueraded as someone else and started the whole thing. So for all I know, they weren't actual MAGA supporters, that some of them that vandalized things. They could have very well been Antifa, Democrats, independents, or something else. Who the hell knows? We don't have anything because they withhold so much information from us. Who the hell knows? And the stuff that they didn't withhold from us, they were lying about. That's kind of what Ben Shapiro's talking about here. There's two narratives. Both could be true, or one could be false and the other one can't. It just depends what the narrative was that we're looking at.
It can be true people did bad things. It can also be true, and criminal things, and some of the people who are in the Capitol building actually did deserve to go to jail. It can also be true that some of the people who are in the Capitol building were basically let in by the cops, and that the media decided that the threat to democracy was far graver than what actually happened on January 6th. Remember, we were told that democracy was nearly overthrown on January 6th. That was nonsense. The building was clear within 2 hours, and the Senate was moving forward with the business of certifying the election, led by a Republican Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, and a Republican Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence. So the idea that democracy was ever in serious threat because of droogs and idiots breaking into the Capitol building and a few of those people running around and threatening violence and shouting in the halls without, by the way, firearms. I mean, again, we were told this was an armed insurrection. Armed would actually imply that there were, firearms on the premises. And as it turns out, the only person who was shot and killed that day was an unarmed rioter, Ashley Babbitt, by a police officer.
Which we saw the footage of. And what's interesting is that was the only person that died on the Capitol, I believe. Everybody else that did pass away, like police officers, was off-site. It was never at the Capitol. But the Democrat Party and the progressive left and the media outlets sat there and pushed that whole thing. So Democrats and the liberal media are going after and trying to cancel Tucker Carlson right now. I mean, Fox News is literally being sued as well because of the election. So because of the dramatic and previously unseen footage of the Capitol riot, yes, you heard me correctly, they're going to try and cancel and actively are trying to do so on Carlson. So he released this on Monday. Today is Thursday. The Capitol News Channel, rather cable news channel, most highly rated show, Tucker Carlson Night, aired the footage Monday night showing people, including so-called the QAnon Shaman. Tucker Carlson showed undermined the kind of narrative that he was running through the halls of Capitol building, knocking people over and beating their brains out in order to get to the main room of the Capitol and sit behind the desk and then hanging from the ceiling. So again, this is what Ben Shapiro was saying on the idea that there are certain narratives being pushed, and that was one of them, that this guy was a lunatic, which I think there is some conversation to be had that he's a little nutso for doing what he's doing, because it's very idiotic to dress up like that and act that way, very childish. But Ben Shapiro is still not wrong in the sense of what the Democrats are pushing, what their main theme was, and really what their end goal was. Their end goal was to try and label and characterize a group of people, meaning Trump supporters, as being bigots, insurrectionists, anti-democracy, trying to take over the Capitol, the Senate, and ultimately remove and redo the election, basically. However you want to phrase it, they would have thrown that into the bucket or the basket of all the nonsense they were throwing at us for the last 2 years.
I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Bald Brad Show. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all our future content.